Hi everybody, Dennis Prager here. If you called in and you're on, stay on. I'm talking about how the last 2 years, or nearly 2 years, have affected you philosophically, personally, emotionally, psychologically, familially. The root of our problem, as I have said all of my life, and I am certain of it, I don't believe it, I know it. An atheist could know this. You don't even have to be a believer to know this. The God issue is the issue. So I received a book in the mail. You have no idea how many books I receive in the mail. And many of them are wonderful, but obviously I could only feature a tiny fraction. But this one just came in, and I asked the author to come on. In their own words, it's 3 volumes. Today's godless America, what would our founding fathers think? The research that made this possible is astounding. Everyone is footnoted. All the founders, what they said about God. My favorite is Benjamin Franklin, because people call him a deist. Benjamin Franklin and I am known as religious, quite rightly, have identical views about life and God. Identical. Just for the record. If he's a deist, I'm a deist. The man who did this is a judge, actually, in Michigan. Mark Boonstra, Boonstra. He has served since 2012 as a judge at the Michigan Court of Appeals. Judge Boonstra, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show.
Thank you, Dennis. It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you for inviting me.
I got to tell you, I can't tell you how much I admire what you've done. I mean, it's this. First of all, there's no book that's more important. If people give a damn about what this country was founded to be, they need to see your 3 volumes. I will cite from it prodigiously on my radio show. When did you begin this research? When you were 8?
Not quite that long. I'm 64, so it wasn't quite that long, although I think the reasons for writing it probably began when I was about 8, when the effort to transform this nation from what it was founded to be into a secular nation probably began that long ago, when they started taking over education in America and journalism in America and entertainment in America and shaping everything that we came to hear and therefore to believe. But no, I started working on this about 7 years ago, honestly, and I have a full-time job and part-time things, so I did it when I could. And there was a time when I thought I needed to get this out, and this was several years ago, because I thought it was important that people hear this message. But the truth is, it's so much more timely today than it would have been then. I mean, and that's sadly because we've fallen further into the craters that we now need to dig out of. But I was concerned for many years, frustrated and angered even about what has happened to our country, and a country that we want our kids and grandkids, that they're going to have to grow up in. And it had strayed so far in so many ways from what our founders intended us to be, that as over those 7 years that the thoughts crystallized in my mind, or before that even, I concluded that there was one really fundamental, underlying, overriding reason for all of that, and that is that we've lost God. And God was so central to the founding of this country. It was the reason our founders came here, was for freedom of religion, to be able to exercise their religion the way they wanted to. And we've lost all. We've banished God from so many areas of our society, in particular the schools. And so our kids are not learning really who our founders were. And what I wanted to do is to, not so much to persuade people of my own views, but
that's right. Just provide that. That's what you've done here. It's awesome. It's truly awesome. The second I got it, I sent you an email. I wanted to help you, ladies and gentlemen. This is a gift to yourself or to anybody on your Christmas list. In their own words, it's all footnoted, what all the founders had to say about the centrality of God. Judge, we're going to do it again another time when Volume 3 comes out. I just want to salute you and tell you how much I want to promote your book.
Thank you so much. Direct people to foundersownwords.com.
Okay, great. Foundersownwords.com with joy.
Right.
Merry Christmas, right. Judge.
Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. He has done a service to this country. In their own words, the name of the book. We're so far from what this country was founded to be. As I said, you could be an atheist and acknowledge it. Many atheists do. All right, Nerve Renew is one of the great products. I actually asked them to advertise because it worked for me. Okay, I threw away the inserts in my shoes that I had worn for a decade because Nerve Renew was so effective in removing the tingling. So if you have tingling, numbness, the like in your feet or hands, go to trynerverenew.com, trynerverenew.com. 2 weeks free, 1 year money-back guarantee. trynerverenew.com.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Southwest was devastated this week, straight up lying, talking about it was the weather. The reason why 2,000 flights were canceled over the weekend, Friday through Sunday, and then over 300 or nearly 400 more on Monday. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of these people just called out sick. They just called out sick. They've been threatened by their employer because their employer happens to be a federal contractor. And because of that, because the federal government has their hands in Southwest Airlines, they have to comply. Now, here's the news. Nothing has happened as of yet. So technically, Southwest Airlines does not have to comply right now. And they can wait for OSHA to make whatever edict they're going to lay out that has not been done thus far. But nonetheless, they suspect that it is coming down the pike. You get all these pilots, 10,000 pilots, 60 to 70% of these pilots are men and women that fought for our freedom, and we're going to kick them off the freaking job. Can you imagine the disruption? You talk about, we look at the ports in California. Can you imagine the supply chain disruption if now we can't even unload cargo ships and we're going to have fewer and fewer pilots? Fewer trained pilots? I don't want to fly. I don't know if they're going to be like United Airlines and bring social justice warrior pilots on. I don't even want to fly. Listen, if you're a pilot, I don't care if you're pink, red, white. I want the best doggone pilot when I'm sitting up in that can 30,000 feet above the ground.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I have never seen in my life the orchestrated hatred to a group of Americans as I am seeing now. It's orchestrated hatred. You are allowed to hate the unvaccinated. Even if the unvaccinated had COVID already, and there is no scientific reason whatsoever for them to take as minimal a risk as it is the vaccine. You are to hate these people. They are killers. They are killing you and themselves. This is this piece of crap governor of California on television. Okay. All right, everybody. I'd like to comment on the end of my interview with Judge Mark Boonstra and his phenomenal work, the 3 volumes, 2 are out, in their own words. You'll understand the utter indispensable nature and centrality of God to the founding of this country. We have effectively changed our motto from "In God we trust" to "In masks we trust." It's not even meant cute. It's probably true for half this country. They believe in masks more than in God. But I want to comment just at the end when I wished him Merry Christmas, and he said, Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah. A lot of people do that with me, and it's very sweet. You know, I'm a big advocate of saying Merry Christmas, not Happy Holiday or Happy Holidays. Christmas should be honored as Christmas, even if you're not a Christian. My comment is, that's only in America. It is inconceivable to me that in an interview on the BBC, if the interviewer were a Jew, as I am, or in France or Belgium or the Netherlands or anywhere else where there are Jews, that the interviewee, after being told Merry Christmas, would add Happy Hanukkah. That's America. Too many American Jews are ingrates, just as too many American Christians and everybody else. Because you know why? When you go to college, you learn to be an ingrate. That's the chief BA. I say this as a Jew with sadness. I went to a yeshiva when I was a kid. Yeshiva is an all-day school. Half the day was religious subjects in Hebrew, and half the day was secular subjects in English. I did this till I was 18. I have a very, very strong background. My knowledge of Hebrew grammar and biblical Hebrew is what has enabled me to write my Bible commentary. So I'm still on my high school, Yeshiva Flatbush, which has an elementary school and a high school. I went to their high school. And so I'm still on their mailing list as an alumnus. So I was looking through some of the mailings that they send out, and they had pictures of kids. Again, this is an Orthodox Jewish school celebrating Thanksgiving in the school, and celebrating American holidays, waving the American flag. And that's how I was raised when as a religious Jew. In secular schools today, you know what they're taught about Thanksgiving? That it's all a lie, and that all it does is celebrate genocide. They show them an MTV. I said about MTV 25 years ago, everybody who worked for it is going to have to answer to God. MTV was always a cesspool, a true cesspool. And it contributed tremendously to the reduction of society, its demise. And they show them this MTV thing about what a lie it is that Thanksgiving celebrates something good. It's all about genocide. And I'm looking at the kids at the school that I went to. I mean, I'm talking about kids in third grade, waving the American flag, dressing up as pilgrims. And I thought it was a beautiful thing. All right. I'm devoting the show today to the question, how have these years affected you, these past 2 years, nearly 2 years, in any way, philosophically, religiously, morally, familially, friendship-wise, whatever it might be. Interesting. Bud in Joliet, Illinois. Hello.
Hello, Dennis. How are you?
Well.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
I can tell you that as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, there has been nothing too through the years that has so driven a wedge through our recovery family is the reaction to the COVID virus. Initially, when everything was shut down, most meetings, a great many meetings, are held in church basements. So churches were closed. We were unable to meet. So many of us reverted to the old ways. We went back to having meetings in our homes, and it worked out very well. We had meetings in our garages, in our homes, and for the people who were willing to and were not fearful, they came out. Subsequently, we've had such a great division of people who are more fearful of COVID or the government. The government reaction to COVID than they are of the possibility of a relapse and return.
What a brilliant point! What a great point!
It's horrible. It's horrible.
God, I could cry. God, is that a good point? They're more fearful of COVID, and so many of them are young and have virtually nothing to fear.
1 minute.
That's right. More fearful of COVID than of relapsing, of going back to the nightmare, the lost years, the lost everything, the lost relationships of alcohol or drugs. Can you imagine then that is a great way of stating how effective the government liars and the media liars have been, and the medical establishment liars have been in scaring Americans. I'm more scared of COVID. I'm 30 years old and I'm more scared of COVID than ceasing to be sober. That was the call of the day, maybe of the week, maybe of the month.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
They're racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
How buoyed are you that Americans are finally waking up, JD?
Look, I'm very excited about what I'm seeing. Certainly in Virginia, but also in Ohio. It feels like there's a real grassroots movement.
Prager.com, search for and listen to my views on just about anything. That's right. I now have my very own search engine. You can even share these clips with your friends. Visit my website at DennisPrager.com. Is this Frank? It's an early Frank. His voice got a little richer.
He's like 100 pounds then.
Over time. He's 100 pounds. I should have that problem. Actually, if I were 100 pounds, I would be 6 feet under. Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. The show today is how have these 2 years affected you? Let's go to Jim in Orange, California. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
So on a positive note, I suspect, I don't know, that PragerU has experienced more hits during this period than before in its history.
Well, PragerU has 5 billion, as in billion with a B.
Oh, I know.
Right,
I know,
but yeah,
yeah.
and it does increase every year, but I don't think it's related to COVID. I think because it was getting a billion a year before COVID. COVID might have done this, though. It might have had. I'll tell you where I think you're right. In parents showing the videos to their kids because they realize they're learning nothing, or even worse, they're being indoctrinated into bad ideas.
And also people being locked into their homes.
Yeah, you're right. I think that in those two respects, there probably has been an increase. That's very sweet of you to mention that. I thank you. There's no doubt in my mind that for the vast majority of young people, if they watched and studied and read about the 500 videos that we now have up, the 5-minute videos, aside from things for children, it would be a far, far superior education to the one they'd get at almost any college. I want to tell you, as we end this segment, I just want to tell you, those of you who have enjoyed my Rational Bible series, I have something coming out in a couple of months. You can pre-order it on Amazon. The Rational Passover Haggadah, it's the service that's done at the Passover Seder. Whether you're a Jew or a Christian or a no religion, whether you have a Seder or not is irrelevant. It is a powerful work explaining the biggest issues of life and about God. So if you think my thoughts are important on this subject, you will want to pre-order it at Amazon. Again, the Rational Passover, it's all you have to put in, but the Rational Passover Haggadah, that's the name of the book. And it's a great gift as well. And we continue on the Dennis Prager Show.
Trending now on the Dennis Prager Show.
I have never seen in my life the orchestrated hatred to a group of Americans as I am seeing now. It's orchestrated hatred. You are allowed to hate the unvaccinated. Even if the unvaccinated had COVID already, and there is no scientific reason whatsoever for them to take as minimal a risk as it is the vaccine. You are to hate these people. They are killers. They are killing you and themselves. This is this piece of crap governor of California on television.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Schools are lining up to push the transgender agenda on kids and cut parents out of the equation.
Go to salemnow.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor. We would have sandwiches with no meat. My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
How buoyed are you that Americans are finally waking up, JD?
Look, I'm very excited about what I'm seeing. Certainly in Virginia, but also in Ohio. It feels like there's a real grassroots movement brewing on the conservative movement right now. And it's, just like in times past, it's not just the politicos, it's not just the establishment folks. Sometimes not even people who are that political, but they're just very fired up about what their kids are teaching. Their kids are coming home crying, upset because they're being told that they're a bad person depending on the color of their skin, and they're just fed up about it. And I think it may very well take down Terry McAuliffe, but I certainly think it is the beginning of a movement all across this country that's going to take down a lot of Democrats all over the nation.
In the break, we were talking to my team here, and somebody said, "Well, it's neck and neck, and if Glenn loses by 3 points, that's a big deal in any other normal election." And here's the reaction I have, JD. There is no such thing as a normal election after 2016. Do we have any faith that there will be a normal election? Talk to us about the recent breaking news about Facebook and the censorship of conservatives. You've written a piece about it. How do we get?
Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO. Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I didn't know Bob Hope sang.
Yeah, Mickey Holiday had a show and he'd sing.
Huh. And who's the woman?
That is his wife.
His wife? Mrs. Hope. Pretty good, huh?
You don't know me.
That's right. Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. And I'm devoting the entire show to the question of how the last nearly 2 years has affected you. Philosophically, psychologically, familially, friendships, materially, how has it affected you? So far, everybody has something sad to report. I do. Not about my own personal life, which I have led as normal as possible from the beginning, but my views of my country, its institutions. It's very sad. Here's an example, and then I'll take your calls. This just in here. Yahoo News. The CEO of Southwest Airlines told a congressional committee that face masks, quote, don't add much, unquote, additional protection for passengers on board a flight. Gary Kelly, the CEO of the Texas-based airline, said that masks don't add much, this was yesterday, if anything, in the air cabin, citing the air filtering mechanism on board Southwest planes. The statistics I recall, or the statistic should have said I recall, is that 99.97% of airborne pathogens are captured by the high-efficiency particulate air filtering system, he told the Senate committee. It's turned over every 2 or 3 minutes. Describing the situation as being very safe, the airline boss went on to say that the case is very strong, that masks don't add much, if anything, in the air cabin. It was highly, quote, it was high quality compared to any other indoor setting. All he did is tell the truth. Wearing a mask on an airplane will one day be regarded as one of the most sheep-like idiocies in American history. But he was condemned by a public health official, needless to say. Jerome Adams, a former U.S. Surgeon General, rebuked the comments made by Mr. Kelly by American CEO, I guess American Airlines. Oh, they're good. An aircraft is the safest place you can be, correct? It was irresponsible, Mr. Adams. He's a doctor. He's got a degree. I looked up during the break who Jerome Adams is. He was Surgeon General under Donald Trump. Yeah. Well, Donald Trump didn't know his views, and it's irrelevant. Who cares who the Surgeon General is? But in any event, the proof that it's all a fraud. And then I'll tell you what I looked up about this doctor, is that the pilots don't wear it in the cockpit, right? Okay, and you don't want them to. You don't want them breathing in their own carbon dioxide for 6 hours. But the giveaway for this Dr. Adams is that he's not only an MD, he has a degree in public health. That's like a degree in education, as I said in the first hour. While there are intelligent people, in other words, people who think clearly with those degrees, they are a tiny minority. If you got a degree in public health or in education, the odds are you're a lousy educator and a lousy public health official. It was responsible, Mr. Adams, they call him Mr. for whatever reason, said in a CNN interview, these folks are making record money right now because of these mask mandates. Really? So that's an interesting theory. First of all, it has nothing to do with whether masks are effective. It has to do with why they're making money. They're separate questions. So it's an interesting question, isn't it? Would a lot of Americans refuse to fly if there was no mask mandate on airplanes? It's an interesting question, isn't it? But for anybody who says, I won't fly unless there's a mask mandate, why do you fly now, given that everybody who's eating has no mask on? And you're a few inches away. Not 6 feet. Fear conquers reason. Fear conquers love. Fear conquers hate. That's another change in me in the last nearly 2 years. I thought love or hate is the most powerful human emotion. And I was wrong. Fear is. Okay, let's go to your calls, how this time has affected you. Heather in Seattle, thank you for waiting all this time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's an honor to talk to you. I was going to tell you all about how our business was closed for a year and the mask mandates indoors and the vaccine mandates for people to enter our establishment, which, by the way, Dennis, I'm never doing. They can take me to jail before I actually ask someone for their vaccine record before they come into our business. It's just something I will never do. And I also just wanted to mention a story about natural immunity, because I know there's just so many questions among folks about concerns or the fact that CNN calls it so-called natural immunity. We got COVID back in March, and my mom had it before that, who's highly at risk. She had to take medications that her missionary friends brought her from Afghanistan. We took hydroxychloroquine. We took all the good stuff, but we had to figure it out on our own. No one was there to help because there is a suppression of therapeutics, which breaks my heart. But, sorry, Dennis, just a second. My mom flew up, and she took care of us with no mask, kisses on the lips, soup for 2 weeks. She took care of my whole family and my sister's whole family. She never got sick. She never passed it on, and she was fearless. And I just want people to know natural immunity is real. Therapeutics are important. That masks are an absolute, they're destructive to our kids, to our communication. Our business requires interaction. We own a paint and sip, and it requires people to get their hands dirty and and to talk and to be together. And we cannot do that with masks on. We just can't.
So I'm
Thank
curious.
you so much for hearing
well,
me.
yes, I'm glad you called. I agree with every single word you said. Every single word, even the. I agree with the. So I'm curious. Has anybody in your restaurant, any patron, said, "How come you don't ask for proof"?
You know what? No, and I'm actually really surprised. We moved to only private parties, though. We used to be a public event space. And to be honest, we stopped not because we didn't want people to come, but because it went from being this full of joy experience to complete silence. We had public events where people would come in with masks, and even couples weren't talking to each other. And it honestly was so depressing that we ended up, and our numbers just came all the way flat. That we
So
had
are you
to
making
move
a living?
to just a private. Well, my husband had to go, so he left his corporate job to start this business with me about 2 months before the pandemic hit. And we were just taking off. We had our first sellout. It was going well. So now he's had to go back to his old job. Mm-hmm. We're barely making it here. Our landlord's incredible, and he's been so supportive. But it's just been so hard. And I have four
if you
kids.
Could make a living in a free state as opposed to Washington State, would you move?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's what we're actually looking to do right now. Even though my mom just moved home, I want to be with family, but we got to get the hell out of here.
Where are you thinking of moving to?
Well, we're looking at Texas. There's parts of Ohio that we have friends and family, and they, even though they're a purple state, they've just been more aggressive at standing up to the mandates. I've been protesting with like 12 people because nobody seems to think this is important enough. But
I know.
I'm going to live free or die trying.
Well, I love you. I really do. I will give you a immunity hug. We'll be back in a moment.
Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm a green card holder, have been for 20 years.
Thank you. From where?
When I first from South Africa.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I came into this country, I had to have blood tests to see that I didn't have syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV. I had to show all kinds of vaccinations. I had to show means to be able to support myself, et cetera, et cetera. So my point being is that the law is not being upheld as we understand it. And so I don't understand how they are circumnavigating the law again. I mean, obviously allowing these people into the country in the first place without proper vetting, etc., is one of the ways. But I mean, the laws are written for legal immigration. There are methods and ways of doing it. They say the system is broken, but it's not broken. It functions.
Greg, I am deeply in your debt. Stay where you are because I've got a couple of questions for you, but just an addendum to your magnificent remarks. The system is not broken. We totally have a system that is set up to work if the laws that are on the books will only be enforced. But that's a huge if, and they are being intentionally ignored. So 20 years you've been here, right? And as someone who's actually followed the law, share with me a couple of minutes of your experience on whether it was too easy, too hard, or just right.
I think it was just right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery.
He said, listen, I gotta give these niggas enough. Not too much, but enough that I have them voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
The race grievance industry would have you believe that blacks get up and think about nothing else except race.
If I tell you this is racist, yeah, I'm gonna get you emotional.
There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, 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 racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
When there is a clash on the left between separate preferred activist groups.
Howdy, Dennis Prager with you. One antidote to the distortion of American history, the perversion of the teaching profession, is Hillsdale College, and they have a free course which is titled the Hillsdale 1776 Curriculum. It's for adults and for young people. It's free. And I can't think of a better cause than promoting good education at this time when most education is unworthy of the term education. It's an honest study of our history. It's called the Hillsdale 1776 Curriculum. How do you get it? For free. Download it at k12.hillsdale.edu. That's kindergarten to 12th grade. K12, no dash, no 2, no nothing. Just k12.hillsdale.edu. edu for educational institution. The show is devoted today to how these past 2 years, nearly 2 years, have affected you. For most people, it has been negative. And even though I have lived as normal a life as possible, my understandings of human nature and indeed of my country have been dark. And I'm sorry to say it, obviously. Sid in Arlington, Texas, hello.
Good morning, Dennis. Thank you for having me on your show. I listen to you all the time.
Thank you.
I listened to your commentator yesterday. I called about fear, but if you don't mind, I'd like to change it because the conversation today has to do with how it's affected me. I have 2 grandchildren, both who became voting age one became voting age and the other did. So make it short. One is family liberal, the other is conservative. I wrote a letter to my grandchildren before the election with Hillary, and both parents were very concerned that I was stepping on their toes. So anyway, it's very, very disconcerting for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have an acronym for fear. It stands for Feelings Evolving Around Revivification. As I say, I'm a hypnotist. I work with people with fear issues, and COVID has been one of the most outstanding ones for the last 2 years.
Naturally. Let me just ask you, your child and son-in-law or daughter-in-law said that you were stepping on their feet or going into their territory by writing this letter. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now, let me understand, what, in a sense, essentially, what did you say? You gave your views about the election?
Yes, sir. I said, so no one remembers 50 years ago when communism was so abundant. The Communist Party failed, and nobody understands our enemies. They're very patient. So that they made a decision to infiltrate the Democratic Party, I would assume. And so
right. So let me understand.
So
we all do this, or we should do this. I always, when I hear something, I try to think, how would I react? Let's say my parents were leftists, and they sent my children a letter supporting leftism. I would have my children read it, and I would not condemn my parents for writing it. I would say, this is what Grandpa thinks, and you got to love him. He's your grandfather, and that's the end of the issue. That's people who are secure in their own values don't care if their kids read other ideas. If my parents were leftists and sent the kid, my kids, leftists supporting their theme, I would demand that they read it. I would demand that they still hug Grandpa and Grandma when they visited the house. It's mind-boggling. I was taken aback. You're stepping on our territory? What the hell does that mean? We're the only ones who were allowed to talk to them about politics? Their own grandfather can't? God, it's mind-boggling. The wimpishness is that is at the heart of leftism. That's why they have to have safe spaces at college. That's why their feelings are always hurt. Well, that's a very important story, actually. All right, Sid, I appreciate it. And let's see, Debbie, not Debbie, I don't know what double E means. I don't know what your name is, but you're in Bloomington, Indiana. Hello. What is your name?
My name is actually Steve, but I'm a local performing personality. And it's a very liberal town, and my friends know me by...
Wait, you broke up. It broke up completely. Your friends know you as, and then it died.
I'm saying my friends know me by that stage name, Double E.
Okay.
And that way, they'll know it's me.
All right, fair enough. Thank you.
And I don't have to tell anybody what an honor it is to talk to you. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Appreciate it.
I would like to talk to you about one thing that has affected me, and that is I heard a statistic. I have not been able... that in 2020, the majority of children born will have lower than average IQs because of oxygen starvation or the carbon dioxide poison.
Yeah, you keep breaking up, but I at least I know that one theme. I have no idea what's true about that. I've never even mentioned it, not because I dismiss it. I don't know if that's true. First of all, they don't wear masks. Well, they wear masks from the age of 2, which is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling, as it all is. It can't help them, and it can harm them. The harm, however, is that we are raising a generation getting used to hiding their faces from others. This is unprecedented and a disaster. The social disaster is awful. People who work with the public tell me that people being masked has frequently induced worse behavior in people. When you're anonymous, you don't act as humanly decent as when you are unmasked. Sarasota, Florida, Jack, hello.
Hi, Dennis. Thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm calling about is I've lost respect for a lot of people I used to respect because of the amount of fear that they hold and how scared they've been. Relatives that they politely decline visits, although that's changed a little bit now. but I can't get over my sense of loss in that these are people that I thought so much of.
That's right. You know what? I got to take a break, but you're so right. Let me just ask all of you, would you rather be raised by a frightened parent or an unfrightened parent? Back in a moment.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor. Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat. My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO. Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime.
I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Have you ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just begun.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's a good thing, Salem News Channel. We're going to have some big stuff coming in 2022, which is 2 weeks from now. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. I'm Dennis Prager. The last call, or was it the last call, or I don't know, one of the last calls? It's eating at me. Man called, he's a grandfather, sent his grandchild, just became voting age, a letter about the election, the previous election, 2016. He's the grandfather is a Republican, a conservative. Sent his grandchild a letter. His child is apparently on the left, and berated his or her. I don't remember. He didn't make it clear. Maybe he did. I didn't get it. Either his daughter or his son berated him for crossing boundaries in sending the letter to the grandchild. Can you imagine that? It's proof of something I don't believe. I know all leftists suppress dissent, because if you don't suppress dissent, you're not a leftist. You're a liberal, but you're not a leftist. So even dissent within the family must be suppressed, let alone on Facebook or Twitter. This is the micro version of Google. You differ with us, we shut you down. I feel sorry for the man. To have produced a child who would do that is very, very painful. If my child said to me, you crossed the boundary sending your grandson a letter, I would be very sad. I wouldn't allow it to ruin my life. I don't want to be held hostage by my children. Thank God that it's not a dilemma for me, but if it were, that would be my attitude. But it would make me sad. You don't want your child to read a letter from his grandfather because it differs with your politics? Wow. I think that's the best reaction. Wow. By the way, there are a lot of people, especially college educated, because most people become stupid at college. I mean that literally. There are many parents who do not allow their parents to see their children, that is the parents' grandchildren, if they voted for Donald Trump, for example. We don't want to poison our children with your ideas. Shows you how ineffective the parents think their ideas are, that a periodic visit from grandpa is going to undo all the indoctrination and hatred that the parents taught the children. Right? It's all it proves. Can you imagine a conservative adult saying to the parents, you can't visit because you're lefties? I would say the same thing. What the hell's wrong with you? Why are you so insecure about your conservatism? By the way, this is a good example of why listening to talk radio, and certainly this show, because we talk so many intimate matters, gives you such an education about life. I don't know where else you could learn all this. This is the real deal. Parents can't see their grandchildren. Wow. Okay, let's see here. Victoria, Tarpon Springs, Florida, the free state. Make America Florida. That's my motto.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. And thank you for taking my call. I'm a serious Dennis Prager listener, not only in my car, but in my home on the radio.
Bless
I actually
you.
went out and got the radio.
That's
out
a riot. You
batteries.
bought a radio. How sad.
I found an old one passed away, put the batteries in and plugged it in.
Is
So
that
I could
funny?
make sure I can listen to you.
That's good.
I'm such a fan, and Oh my God, I'm getting goosebumps all over just having you on the phone with me, knowing that we're both God's children.
We are. That's right.
We are.
All right, hold on. You'll tell me what you want to tell me when we get. I didn't want to interrupt you for a commercial message. It is funny though. A lot of people don't own a radio. You don't.
I bought one, a little tiny one.
You bought a little tiny one, and you work in radio.
Yeah.
If this were a dictatorship, I'd have you shot. Just for the record.
I agree.
You could wear a blindfold while it happens, and certainly a mask. I would have you wear a mask. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384. Go to that website and you will see how many people's lives have been bettered, improved, because it works. Relief Factor works in reducing or even eliminating back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, leg pain, whatever it might be, muscle or joint. Give it a 3-week try, because they say if it doesn't work in 3 weeks, it probably doesn't work. The manufacturer says that. $19.95 for 3 weeks. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384.
Now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
When there is a clash on the left between separate preferred activist groups, who gets preference? Who wins? Now, on the left, they have a hierarchy, not any different than a hierarchy that you'd have in any sort of organization. You see, when the left has a moment of disagreement or conflict, it is very important to realize that there is a structure of what matters more than something else. I wrote a piece for humanevents.com where I wrote, it was literally called, "This Matters More Than That." Now, a great example of this is when Fauci, the lockdown artist, the anti-freedom activist, mad scientist, who is the best example of the technological and scientific elite that the left worships. When he was even confronted by a talk show host where they asked Fauci, they said, "So do you think that young people should stop hooking up via Tinder and basically having very promiscuous relationships?" And Fauci said, "Well, you have to understand there's some risk to that." He didn't denounce it because he understood that if he came out against promiscuous behavior for young people, there'd be a revolution.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Right. So this has changed in the culture. We now have entire stadiums screaming blank Joe Biden.
Right.
I actually think that in some measure this is a sign of health in the country.
I don't think you're wrong. In fact, my last column, I talk about in essence, what the American people are feeling in terms of how they're being treated by the current administration.
Now, excuse me, by the way, I'm not saying I approve of it.
Right.
It makes me uncomfortable.
Clearly.
But at the same time,
we're talking about what we're observing.
It seems like a strange sign of health that we feel free enough to say that.
Well, and I don't even know that.
One of the terrible traits of the left is that in making policy, they never ask what is the price paid. Defund the police. What's the price paid? Innocent dead people. Stores robbed massively. Delayed response to 911 calls. Mayor of San Francisco is very angry about all the crime there. If that's not gaslighting, then I'm not Dennis Prager. What? You think we, Democratic mayors, are in any way responsible for the rise in crime? What, are you out of your mind? Yeah. And we're supposed to believe that. All right. The question on the table for 3 hours today is how have these last 2 years affected you? It's a dramatic show. Back to you, Victoria in Florida. By the way, where is Tarpon Springs?
We're just a little north of Clearwater, Florida. We're about 30 minutes from the Tampa Bay airport.
You're very lucky. It's a great area.
It's a great area. You know, it's Tarpon Springs is a Greek town, and they still dive for sponges.
Huh.
The sponge shop.
Oh my God! You're talking to a lifelong sponge diver.
No, you're just saying that.
That's correct. I am just saying that. That is entirely accurate. All right, what's on your mind, dear Victoria?
Well, my husband and I moved here from California about 4 years ago.
That was
We're
wise.
so happy.
Right.
Yes, very happy to be, and we have a wonderful governor here in Florida. We're very blessed as a couple. I'm blessed because I have two beautiful stepdaughters that I just call my daughters, and then I have 4 grandchildren. Well, one's in California with a granddaughter and a grandson, and the other one is a daughter in Philadelphia. She's a neonatal nurse, doctor. I'm sorry, she's a neonatal doctor, and I've been told that I'm not allowed to come to the house, spend the night in the house, because I've not been vaccinated.
But they are. But they are, right?
But they, oh yeah, and the children, the 13 and the 15-year-old boys have been vaccinated.
That's so sad. I'm sorry to hear that. You can't visit. You're the elderly person compared to them. They are vaccinated, and you can't visit. And that, you know why? Because your daughter is a doctor.
Isn't that the truth?
That is the truth. Nobody is more fearful than doctors. I understand that. That's fine. But when they impose their fears on others, it's not fine. Victoria, God bless you. Thank you. Prescott, Arizona. Al. Hello, Al.
Yeah, hi, Dennis.
Hi there. You've been waiting since hour number 1.
Yeah, well, I just feel I really wanted to thank you. I got to tell you, I love you. I listen to your show often.
I like when men tell me they love me. It touches me. Thank you.
Well, everybody knows what I mean. I'm not.
No. You don't have to say anything. I don't care what you mean. I'm touched.
Well, okay. My wife passed away 2 days before Thanksgiving from COVID. And everything you are presenting on the show and many of your callers are presenting is absolutely true. If there can be 1,000% correct, this has been entirely our experience. Unfortunately, I had run out of ivermectin, and my source of it was closed down for a week. And during that week, my wife got worse and worse. But my boys and I, because we did have some access to ivermectin before it came into our household, after a week or so, we're all fine. But she went to the I had to call 911 because she was having so much trouble breathing. And when I left the hospital that night, I told the nurse that was taking care of her, do not put her on a ventilator. They had her at that point on a CPAP type thing that would blow oxygen into her lungs. I said, keep her on that. Well, the next morning I get a phone call that they flew her down to Phoenix. So when I get to the hospital, which is 100 miles away, so when I get to the hospital that they flew her to, she was on a ventilator, and there was only a nurse there, and I said to the nurse, I didn't want her on a ventilator. I told them when I left the hospital in Prescott that keep her on that CPAP, don't put her on a ventilator. And to make a long story short, because it gets very complicated, the next morning, the doctor started calling me because he, I'm sure, was upset that I took that position. And when I finally did talk to him, he was exactly what you've been saying. He was a sheep. He just wanted to do what he was told by the government, who was trying to instill fear.
So how long more did your wife live?
On the ventilator, she lived about 4 or 5 days.
Right. I'm very, very sorry. The medical profession has shamed itself in this COVID crisis. It will not restore its reputation in my lifetime. Maybe not in the lifetime of my children, I don't know. It's getting worse as the medical schools deteriorate and politicize their curricula, as doctors no longer work independently, but for big health corporations. They used to be doctors, now they're healthcare providers. That change is not a good one. Back in a moment.
Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor. Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat. My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO. Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime.
I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de sus palabras?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
You're out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just be good.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Everybody. Have you ever wondered what I have to say about a specific politician in your country? You can now go to DennisPrager.com, search for and listen to my views on just about anything. That's right. I now have my very own search engine. You can even share these clips with your friends. Visit my website at DennisPrager.com. All right. I will. Thank you, Dennis. I wish the whole country could have heard today's 3 hours. We could do this. We could do this for a year. Every show, 3 hours. How have these 2 years affected you? In every case, in some way negatively. Because of the lockdowns, not because of COVID. That's important that you understand. The masks, lockdowns. That's the issue. Mike, Pittsburgh, hello.
Hey, Mr. Prager, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir.
I wanted to call. I haven't seen my parents in 2 years. They're 81. They basically blackmailed my wife and I to get the shot, which we did. My 18-year-old got it because he's going into the ROTC program. But my other two, 14-year-old, 10-year-old, have not received it. I will not give it to them. And for that, they will not see us.
Your 80-something parents won't visit their grandchildren?
Well, they won't allow us to come see them. They retired. They moved about an hour and 40 minutes away.
Right. So let me understand this. So they don't visit you because they're retired or they're too old to travel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But they won't. Are they vaccinated?
They are, and they have their boosters.
Then what is their reasoning in not seeing their grandchildren?
My mother said that she knows she's at the end of her life, becoming old, but she doesn't want to die that way. That's what she gave me.
Wait, she thinks that she will contract fatal COVID from her grandchildren?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What is the political affiliation of your mother?
We're all Republican.
Wow,
Catholic.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Well, they used to be, they're my idols. I mean, they were strong people, but and as their age grew, I don't understand it.
I don't either, to be honest. I don't understand it on many levels. The older you get, the more brave you should be. That's something. Well, there you go, folks. There are the prices. Dave, Margaret, James, Jeff, Amy, Chris, and Larry. If I could send you a penitence card, I would. I would love to have taken your calls. I called the lockdowns around the world the greatest worldwide mistake in history in April of 2020. I was right. See you tomorrow.